in the loop. What's up, everybody? This is 1800PRAYFORME. I appreciate y'all for taking the time to actually come on. Hold up, somebody's echoing. If y'all can go mute real quick, everybody go mute. I'm sorry. But yes, I thank y'all for coming on. I appreciate y'all for taking the time to out your Thursday. Come on. We have some guests for the beginning of our Bible study. Dekalb PD, they came on. They actually volunteered to come on because they wanted to be as transparent as possible and want to, connect with the community inside a way that hasn't really been seen and done yet. And so I'm applauding them for actually taking the time out to try to do that. And so we sent in some questions that they are going to answer. And if there are additional questions that you do have about anything when it comes to safety wise, when it comes to, interacting and engaging with police or whatever the case may be, you can ask that. So that's going to be the first part of the Bible study. And then the second half, we're going to get into how it ties into what we're talking about this month of March. And so without further ado, I'm going to give it to you, Lieutenant Sawyer.
Hey, perfect. Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Sawyer. I am Evening Watch Commander for North Central Precinct. And I'm glad to be here. Love interacting with the community, love answering questions and all that good stuff. So I'll dive right in. We do have a list of questions and I'm actually up first. The very first question says, how to de-escalate an aggressive officer? So of course, when de-escalation, first you got to be aware of your scene and what's going on. You guys have all seen in the news, some things have been good, some things have been not so good. And there are situations where adrenaline can take over. There are situations where stress can take over and be a factor in a call or a situation. But the one thing we're going to do to make sure that we can de-escalate those things is, one, it starts with the training that we receive. And every year we receive de-escalation training. As a matter of fact, I just left the training class just today in reference to de-escalation. But in order to stop something like that, when you see something, you have to step in, and you will at some point, you may have to physically or verbally pull an officer away from a scene and let another officer step in. We have recognized that throughout the years. And of course, DeKalb County is doing a wonderful job at that. As be honest, we're actually doing a little bit better than most departments around the state and the country, recognizing if a situation is getting heated, to pull one of our own back, either verbally or physically, depending on the situation. So in most cases, that's how it's handled.
For sure. Did anybody have any questions about that, or if they wanted to ask a question themselves? Feel free to do so. You can either raise your hand or you can put it inside the chat, and then we'll read it off. I'll give anybody time. Is everybody cool? You solid? All right, bet. What's the next question? Bet. And Kalia, I want to make sure that we get your questions too that you had inside the group message.
Go ahead, Al. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody realizes, besides Lieutenant Sawyer, we have the precinct commander of North Central, Major Patrick Sherling is on. We also have Officer Angelique Cartwright is on, and there's several other officers coming on, but they're not here. So if there's somebody on here that has a question too, go for it. If not, one of you three get to answer it. No, question number two. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and get question number two as well. It's for myself and Sergeant De Los Angeles. I don't know if he's on yet or not, but that number two question says,
well, here's Captain Barron, and I think, yeah, okay, all right.
So Al, why don't we do this, Al? Why don't you ask the question, and we already know the assignments on who's going to answer them, and then point that out, or allow Captain Barron to ask the question, assign the answer, or the officer that's going to answer the question. So I want to say good evening to everybody. Thank y'all for having us. This is extremely important for us to be able to meet with our young adults. Building trust and respect is definitely necessary, and it's something DeKalb County's been doing for a long time. I've been a law enforcement officer now for 30 years. with DeKalb County Police Department. When I started in 1992, we already had a very good dialogue with our community citizens. And then during President Obama's years as president, he also put together a council, and we were able to come up with 21st century policing. And in that 21st century policing is building trust and respect. And it will go along with community relations, technology, health and wellness. I believe I mentioned technology, training. You heard Lieutenant Sawyer talk about training a minute ago. So all these different pillars dealing with the community and with law enforcement on how we train, how we educate, and how we operate our police department is very important. And we do all of this in order to be able to be successful in our communities. And you know, we have 2% of citizens out there that commit crime. The other 98% of citizens, they all want the same thing: love, peace, and happiness, just to enjoy life and be prosperous in our country. So DeKalb County, I believe we are the front runners in this. We've been recognized before. Anyway, thank y'all for having us. I love speaking to our young adults. I have a young adult daughter myself, and sometimes it's very trying to be able to communicate with her, but I hope we're successful tonight. And from there, Captain Barron.
Good evening, and I won't prolong the introduction. I don't have 30 years like him, but I'm in the house, okay? So I am the Assistant Precinct Commander, and I am just very grateful for each and every last one of you that are giving this your time. And I just hope that out of this, that we make you a little bit more clearer or give you a little bit better direction than what you came on the Zoom with in regards to some of the questions that you all have. So what we're gonna do, being you all did come up with the questions, and we have assigned officers to answer these questions, and they was assigned based on experience and knowledge. We wanna make sure that any information that you're given, that it is just not given and it's just to be given an answer, but we want to make sure that it came from someone that's experienced and knowledge to be able to give you the best answer. So I'm going to read the question, and the officer that is assigned that question can answer. And I do believe that, you know, this is a free for all. If it's you all have further questions, just ask. If you know you all want to piggyback on a question, as well as if any of the officers, if it's not your question, if you want to add to the answer or give a different perspective, please feel free to do so. So our first question was how to de-escalate an aggressive police officer. And that question is going to be answered by Lieutenant Sawyer.
Hey, Cap, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know if you came on, but I got that question first out of the way.
Well, excuse me.
No, and it's okay. And we got it out of the way. So we're actually on question number 2. So I can go ahead and hit number 2. I don't know if Sergeant De Los Angeles is on or
He
not.
is.
Okay,
Sergeant De La is on. So
Okay.
Sergeant De Los Angeles, you and Lieutenant Sawyer, you all are actually down to answer why do you want to work in this industry? So whoever wants to go first.
Let me go ahead and take it in. I wanted to work in this industry because this was my way of giving back. For those of you who don't know, I'm actually born and raised in DeKalb County. I went to the DeKalb County schools. My family still lives in DeKalb County, so I'm really invested in the growth and the development in DeKalb County. I wanted to get into policing because I really want to help people, and I really get enjoyment behind that. Another thing about me, I've really dedicated my life to service. I serve my God, I serve my country, and now I serve my community. So that's one of the reasons, or many reasons rather, why I want to get into this particular industry. And I love it. So that's from my point of view. Sergeant De Los Angeles?
I'm Sergeant De Los Angeles. Well, the reason why I got into this work is, like Lieutenant Sawyer, I do enjoy giving back and helping people. A lot of times when I tell that to people, they're like, well, if you like helping people, why don't you do something else that you can help people? But feel the need of being that barrier between those individuals that can't help themselves, that can't protect themselves.
We lost you, Dekalb. We lost you.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
We can't hear you,
Hmm.
Sergeant Dekalb. So we'll give him an opportunity to try and get his system worked out. We'll move on to question. Oh, he's question number 3 as well.
Well, in the meantime, I don't know if y'all
Yes,
have
sir.
time for this, but
Yes.
there's some questions in the chat. One of them said, with the new pending gun law, no permit to carry, what will that mean for the community? As a licensed gun carrier, I feel the need to have a gun for safety, but I have friends and colleagues who disagree and feel that crime will rise because of this law. As an officer, do you think this has a negative impact?
Any of the officers want to take that question? Well, no, I do not. I'll answer for, my perspective. I do not feel that it would be a negative impact. One of the problems is that guns get into the wrong hands. And that is something that we're just, along with changing the gun laws, we're just going to have to try and implement some other problem solving laws to help us stop guns from getting in the wrong hands and do better at tracking down and getting involved in criminal incidences so that we can get more of those wrong guns off of the street. I do believe, I am one that believe that if you feel that you want to arm yourself, I feel that you have a right to do that. But I just want to push that it comes with responsibility. And that is the problem, where we have a lot of legal, law-abiding citizens that are carrying guns where the mistakes happen at. I would encourage anybody that chooses to carry to make sure that they visit their local range. They get with their local police officers, get safety tips on carrying laws, know the laws for yourself, how to carry, when to carry, being concealed, not being concealed. We actually going to be having a public safety rally or a public safety forum in a couple of weeks that's going to be held, I want to say, at one of the local malls, but it is actually going to be on gun safety. So I truly encourage it, but I just say it comes with responsibility, and that's what we have to make sure that we're pushing out there.
Okay, I appreciate that. We also have another question in the chat. It's going hand in hand with one of the questions that y'all received, so we can just knock that out if y'all see it. But it says, can you speak on how Dekalb and other countries are approaching and prioritizing correction and rehabilitation versus punishment?
Well, I'm sorry. Anybody want to answer that before I go?
So I'll start with that one. So correction and rehabilitation. So in DeKalb County, we have numerous diversion programs, whether it is in the juvenile, for juvenile offenses, if it's misdemeanor offenses or felony offenses, domestic violence laws, narcotics, prostitution, those type of crimes, all except for violent felons. There seems to be not much for rehabilitation for violent felons. But those who are committing nonviolent crimes, those individuals are definitely eligible for rehabilitation or diversion programs. And we start that at a very early age with our youth. And then whenever they continue to commit crime, whether if they're an adult or not, as long as it's a non-violent crime. You know, Captain Barron mentioned, the question before this was weapons. And so I've never seen a gun kill anybody. I've seen people kill people, but never seen a gun kill people. So again, it's responsibility, and it's being accountable for your actions. So, you know, being in law enforcement for 30 years, we see a lot of violence and we see a lot of violent people. And, you know, I wish we could rehabilitate all of them, but I'm not sure that we can. I'm not saying that we don't try, but I'm not sure that we can. And I'm not sure allowing violent criminals on the streets to continue to live among the good 98% of citizens. They have already violated our trust. And once they violate our trust, I think the best thing we can do at this time is use the penal system and then pray for them, and just hope that while they are locked up, that they get rehabilitation. Maybe that's something we should look at in our correction facilities. But here out on the street, I don't believe violent criminals should be socializing among us. In my experience, they're just looking for another victim.
Also, to add to that, because I know part of that question number 10 was about sex workers. And one thing with Dekalb, when it comes to sex workers like prostitutes and things like that, we look at them as victims. We don't so much as look at them as offenders. We look at them as victims. So we do work with other agencies. There is a organization called Anti-Sex Trafficking and one called Frontline Response. And what those agencies do is we call them out to the scene when we do encounter someone who is doing sex crimes. We do call them out to the scene, at which time they actually give counseling and assistance to those, what we call victims. And actually the anti-sex trafficking, she is actually a ex-prostitute herself, and she has worked to making this organization to help others get out of that lifestyle. So we do have some rehabilitation connections and resources that we are able to give, you know, the victims.
And our sex crimes, our diversion programs out of the solicitor's office is for prostitution. So there's a diversion program that, again, they're victims. However, we're not offering a diversion program for those who trafficked our youth or are pimping females for prostitution, or young males. So we're not offering those. Those are crimes, you know, that we consider violent crimes against humanity and against people. So yeah, for the victim themselves, we do, but not for the suspects who prey on those victims.
Got you. Just to give an update for people who came in late. So like, for the first half of tonight, we was gonna, you know, Dekalb PD volunteered to come on just to answer any questions that you may have about anything when it comes to safety or just regulation inside the community. So if you have a question, you can put it inside the chat and answer that. They have a list of questions that you all sent in throughout the week. And so they're answering that as they go as well and stuff. And so, like I said, also just to give everybody like mindful of time, that'll go into like 8:20, just so everybody can see like what the time frame that you have for it, because we might not be able to hit every question, but 8:20, 8:25. All right, go ahead.
So what I'm going to do, Jay, is all of the questions I would love for us to get to, but because we want to respect time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange them, and let's try and get some of the what would be the questions that we would want to get the information out, get those done first, and then we can try and get to the other ones.
Gotcha.
I would like for Officer Cutright to talk about what it is that she least like about her job.
Hi, everybody. I'm Officer Cutright. What I least like about my job is sometimes when we get called to a scene, most people mistake how we control our scene. once we get there, we want to make the scene safe, not only for us, but for the civilians. I guess they get fearful or mistake it as like a threat, but we train and we try to, how can I say it? When we're on scene,
Did we lose her?
no,
I think cut right on the call. You turn your radio down for a moment.
traffic just went out right here.
Okay, so
She's at
I
work.
would say that one of the things that she's trying to convey is trying to get the citizens to understand that when we get to a scene, we have a job we have to do. We have to preserve the scene. And sometimes people feel like we're trying to violate their rights, violate their space. But what we actually is trying to do is make sure that any action law enforcement wise that we have to take, that we are able to give you all the best resolve that you deserve. No officers want to make an arrest, go to court, and we lose the case on your behalf because we did not do things proper on the scene. So one of the downfalls is not having the citizen cooperate with us when we do have to come out there and do the job. We try our best to keep in mind that a lot of times it's because they don't know our job and the things we have to do, but we just try and make sure that we are able to balance that, not disrespect anybody, but get them to understand we're just trying to do our job. Any questions?
There were 3 that came inside the chat. It's not necessarily directed to that, but if anybody has a question directed to that, y'all already know you can come on mute and say it if you feel it. But go ahead, Carly.
Okay, my question is more like personal about you. Well, first, hi, thank you for your service. But my question is, I know that this is a very stressful job and there's a lot of things that you guys have to see and experience and handle. So my question is, how do you guys handle this job mentally? How do you make it so you're not, your mental isn't overcrowded. Therefore, when you work with other people, you don't take that out on them. How do you guys decompress your mental space while handling your job?
I can jump in and answer that from my point of view. The way I kind of bring myself down away from what I'm doing with work is surrounding myself with family and support. I have a wife and I have 2 daughters, and spending time with them is the ultimate way to de-escalate myself from the day to day. And also speaking with my fellow officers about what I've seen or what I've experienced and allowing them to have that same safe space as well. Just talking through a lot of things, believe it or not, will really bring yourself down and bring you on a level so you're not always on a high going from call to call where you can possibly make a mistake or have a bad incident. So that's one of the things I do, spending time with family, having something to do that's not police related.
And also, keeping in mind that the things that officers deal with on a day-to-day, the amount of, unfortunately, blood we see, the amount of violence we see, it is really not what the human body and human mind was designed to go through. So we have things like employee assistance program that we encourage our officers as supervisors. We don't try and wait for an officer to come to us and say, hey, I'm overloaded mentally. We are trained to try and identify officers that are in trouble. And we send them to our employee assistance program. We try and get as much counseling. We even have a peer support group here at Dekalb. We have chaplains. We have the support system in-house as well to help our officers, but people that need help, a lot of times they won't come forward. So as supervisors, we try and pick up on little things to help identify someone that is in a crisis.
Yep.
And we also have programs like the early warning system. So if we see an officer having excessive use of forces or numerous different complaints, then we're able to go back and look at his history. And then we have a council meeting with him where it's multiple lieutenants, captains, and we sit down and we discuss his disciplinary history, his use of forces, and things like this. And we come up with a counseling session, or if it's required, an intervention for him. So we have a lot of checks and balances within the police department so that we can capture some of these emotional issues before it becomes a professional problem and even a personal problem at his home, where he starts going through divorces, wanting to stay away from people and starting to dislike himself, dislike his or her family, and then society itself. As Captain Barron said, we see probably more violence than you'll ever see on a war zone, on a day-to-day operation of law enforcement. So thanks for that question. That was our health and wellness is extremely important. And we're very focused on health and wellness for our officers.
Yeah, that was a very, very good question. Jay, did you have another one?
Yes, we have one inside the chat. Well, we have 3 of them. And so the first one was, what resources do you all use in DeKalb County to assist you in dealing with people you may encounter with mental illness?
We have, anybody want to, I'm sorry, I don't want to answer all the questions. Anybody want to tackle that? Talk about our mobile crisis unit? Brooks, you was a mobile crisis officer, wasn't you? I don't think he hear me. So we have what we call a mobile crisis unit. And that is our officers, they actually ride with a nurse who specializes in mental disabilities. And our officers actually go through an extensive training. I also want to add that all of our officers, just about, I would say a third of our officers are trained in CIT, which is, the training to certify officers in dealing with people with mental illnesses. And we actually have officers that then ride with the nurses, and they actually respond to those type of calls. And that, therefore, you have the citizen getting the type of resources that are needed, not what we feel they need, but where we have a trained counselor, a trained nurse who specializes in this, they're getting the help from them. That also leads into other resources after the call, which is one of the biggest things that we're about. We're about after the call. What are we doing to help you after we leave your home? Are we leaving you in a situation that we found you in, or are we putting you in a situation where you either have resources you can turn to? We want to make sure that you're okay, because we don't want to have to respond back out there. So we do have the training that all of our officers are going through. It is actually mandated, and we are looking by June of this year to where every last DeKalb County police officer will be CIT certified. Therefore, that means that every last one of them will be able to respond to a scene and give the proper law enforcement response to people that have, mental illnesses. So our mobile crisis unit would be the resource that we have on hand. And the nurse, she actually works with the DeKalb Crisis Center. And we also have a network where we work with Grady Hospital and their mental psychiatrists and things like that. So we have a strong mobile crisis unit that actually deal with these type of calls.
And I'd like to add something. So sometimes we may respond to a crisis incident and the subject needs crisis intervention, but he has not violated a criminal offense. So some citizens may ask, well, he's obviously having a mental issue, but he hasn't violated a crime. So that's where our mobile crisis unit can step in and help us. But if a subject has not violated a crime, we cannot take him into custody. So I want everybody to understand that. It may sound cruel, but, and they need help. That's why we try to get a nurse there that they can take over the scene and hopefully get a doctor to sign documents that says, okay, law enforcement, you can now take him into custody. But if a doctor doesn't sign that and there's no criminal law, we have no authority, no legal authority to put our hands on him and take him into custody.
And just we got a question from Key, and then we'll get back into Kalia's questions. But and then just keep in mind, everybody, we have like 10-15 minutes, so I want to make sure that everybody get their question off. Go ahead, Key.
Hey everybody. So just to follow up with what you said last, and this may sound silly, but could you clarify what's the offense? Like if this person is putting people's lives in danger, I think that's enough merit to say send the police, right? Because that's what we're raised to believe. Like if I'm in danger, I call you guys. But I don't know, the way you explained it, it made it seem like, oh, it's not really a problem. So like, we'll just call the nurse. And then like for people within our community, in general, we always have this stigma, well, the police gonna show up late. And then when y'all get there, y'all telling me that y'all can't get rid of the problem. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
Well,
So,
oh, go ahead, Major.
yes. So let me clarify something. So a penal offense is where somebody breaks the law. Obviously, if a subject is having a crisis issue, okay, and they are making verbal threats or physical threats, or they damage property, they're standing in the middle of the roadway, they're violating a law. Okay. So, but if they're standing on a sidewalk, talking to themselves, walking up and down the sidewalk, pushing a shopping cart and sleeping on the sidewalk, that's not violating a law. So therefore we just can't take them away. Okay. I couldn't just take you away if you want to go lay down on the sidewalk right now and sleep for 12 hours. Correct. So it may seem to you and everybody else that's very odd. You know, I see you have a place to lay down and rest at, but sometimes homeless individuals or individuals that are having mental illness issues, they may not be violating a law, and we just can't go. It's not illegal to be homeless or to be having a mental illness problem. It's not illegal until they start to violate laws. It could be criminal trespass. It could be threats. It could be damage to property. Something, I hope I'm explaining it to you. There could be other type of crimes that are being committed. But if they are threatening you verbally or physically, or chasing people, doing different things like that, or beating on cars, and we're going to come and take them into custody.
He said, thank you. Was there another question, Jay?
Yes. We had, how can the DeKalb County Police Department be of use to the housing insecurity and homeless population? What resources can you all provide?
So I'm gonna hand this over to Officer Brooks and Officer Thomas. They actually work in our CPU unit, which is our community policing unit. And one of the things that they specialize is helping the homeless. So Officer Brooks, Officer Thomas, whichever one of you want to answer that question.
Good night, everybody. I'm Officer Thomas. I don't know if you can see me. I don't know if you can hear me, but part of what we do is we do go out and target areas where we know homelessness is very high. We do use other faith-based organizations and nonprofits, and even our local stores. They donate. They provide us with the resources, and we're able to go out and give that to them and address them while we're with them. We give them resources and to aid. So a lot of their homelessness isn't just circumstances. A lot of it's addiction. So tackling homelessness in DeKalb starts with, for most of them, their addiction. And once they accept that they have it and want to treat that, we're able to get them those resources and provide them with the people and get them in front of the right people that are able to help them with their addiction. Most of those programs, once they go in there, they take them from homelessness to fight their addiction and take them all the way into housing and employment. So it's really just a matter of them accepting the help. Once they accept that help and want to fix their situation, the process is actually fairly quickly and very effective between taking them from homeless to housing.
I also want to piggyback on what Officer Thomas just mentioned. We were out on Monday and I made contact with a homeless guy. We had the resources for him, but he admitted he know that he's homeless, but he's not ready to be off the streets. So a lot of them don't want the responsibilities of leaving the streets. They have the freedom to do what they want to do. They don't have to pay any bills or anything. So we run into a lot of those problems when they don't want to leave the streets. We met a guy that's been living in the woods since '92. We had some assistance for him. He refused to go. So it's just based on whether or not they want to go. And
Thank you. I appreciate that. Did anybody else have a question before we get in? We're gonna try and get in like maybe 2 more questions if the time permits. I don't know if anybody, I got one in the chat that says, has the spike in crime in Atlanta since the pandemic affected DeKalb County as well? If so, what are you all doing to try to reduce the crime rate?
I'll take that one. Absolutely. So in the last couple of years, we've seen a spike in specifically violent crime, homicides, aggravated assaults. And what are we doing to target those? Each precinct, DeKalb County has 4 precincts, and then we have a major crimes division that investigate these crimes. So we have identified hotspots, and these hotspots are where we have the majority of violent crimes. Each precinct identifies 2 hotspots, and then we operate crime initiatives with different division units, different DeKalb County entities, police agencies, entities within, and we focused on these violent type of crimes. We've learned that, a lot of our aggravated assaults, the majority of them are known suspects. That means 2 individuals, 3 individuals, they know one another. And it's either they just don't have good social skills, anger management, or substance abuse, or they're committing other crimes, and then they commit crimes against one another. And then, so that's probably 45 to 50% of our aggravated assaults. Homicides, they can range from known to unknown. We have a very good clearance rate in DeKalb County for homicides, but we have seen a spike in violent crime. Yes.
Got you. I actually missed another question that was up there. It says, what are some of the lesser known services that the DeKalb County Department offers that you wish more people knew about?
Brooks, you want to answer that one?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
It says, what are some of the lesser known services that the DeKalb County Department offers that you wish more people knew about?
Well, we have a lot of different programs that are in reference to assisting with jobs, housing, like working with the homeless community. We've ran across a lot of people that are assisting with earlier part of the year when the pandemic was really heavy. We had some nonprofits that was working with us that was able to assist with rental assistance and different things in that nature. So there's a lot of different programs. So we are gathering them slowly, trying to get brochures together to pass out to the community in reference to references so they can follow up with those to see if they can get help to get through what they need to do on a daily basis.
I would say to add to that, we have a PALS Plus unit, our Police Athletic League unit, and they actually work with the youth. And as you all know, the youth are going to be the ones making a decision whether or not we get Social Security. Okay, so we have to invest a lot more into our youth. And DeKalb has been a trendsetter with what we're doing. We have a summer program. It's a year-round program. We do things. We're going out into some of the underprivileged neighborhoods. We do midnight basketball, where we actually are bringing, believe it or not, rival gang members together playing basketball. I mean, it's been in the news how the trend setting that we're doing, that we're hoping that other agencies catch on to, because this just can't be a DeKalb thing. Also with our police athletic league is we help people who don't have their high school diplomas. We help them to get their high school diplomas. We also have partnership with the local colleges that help them to learn a skill. And if they make it through our program, they are guaranteed a job with one of our corporate partners. And that is one of the things that we wish that a lot of, we try and push it, and we try and get people to spread the word, but that is one that we wish that a lot of our DeKalb citizens knew about, because one of the underlying problems with dealing with crimes today, and that is socioeconomic issues. So that is one of the things we wish people knew about, the things we do to help people get a better direction in life.
It's good. It's good. Well, thank y'all. We're coming up on that time or whatever. I know we weren't able to get all questions, so hopefully we can find a way to stay connected with you all and be able to keep that line of communication on. But I want to thank y'all for coming on and giving y'all time to our Bible study. And we appreciate all the insight that you all have given, you know, in this time frame. And so thank you.
No, we thank you. We thank you all for giving us your time. We are going to stay connected. For those of you who may not know, we meet with the pastor at Peace Baptist every quarter, and we try and jump on every function that we possibly can. So if you all want us to come back or want us to be part of another activity, just let us know. We will be there.
Definitely.
Hey, Major and Captain, are you all open to prayer? Is it cool that we pray for you all?
Absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
most definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We end our we end all of our roll calls with prayer. So yes, definitely. Please do that.
Absolutely, man. We really appreciate y'all. We really do. So before y'all get out of here, we just want to cover you with some prayers. That's cool. Let's pray together real quick. Father God, thank you for this evening. Thank you for Dekalb PD and their willingness and their vulnerability to step into a space full of people who are just wanting to know the services that they have available, God, and the resources that they can offer. God, I ask that you continue to tear down the barriers between police, men and women, and the citizens of this nation. God, I ask a special hedge of protection over every officer that is on this call and everyone connected to the Dekalb PD and police officers worldwide. God, I ask that you just protect them, that you keep them safe, that you allow them to be able to go out into the community, do what it is that they have to do, God, but be able to return home to their husband, to their wives, to their children, God, to their families, God. So I ask that you just keep them protected, seal their houses, God, with the blood of the Lamb, like you did the Israelites, that nothing can touch them, God, that no weapon can form against them, Father. And I ask that you just keep them safe during this season. I ask that you just continue to tear down any barriers that it may be when people see an officer and they no longer see an officer as a foe when they meet them, but they see them as a friend. God, allow us to be able to see them as people. And when we see them, we don't feel anxious or angst, but we see them and can have a conversation as if we're talking to a mother or a father or a grandmother. And that's such an easy conversation to have. So God, continue to heal our hearts so that we can continue to see them as people that can help us and not here to hurt us, God. So we're just thankful for this time that we've got to spend together, and we're thankful for their willingness to come on here and answer all of our questions. Just keep them safe as we go, and God will forever give you all of the honor, the glory, and the praise. We pray all of this in your mighty and majestic Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Man.
Very
Guys,
profound,
thank y'all
very
so much.
profound prayer.
Thank you. Man. Thank you,
Very
Mr. Kyle, for
profound.
orchestrating it. And, you know, we'll definitely keep in touch.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right, man. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
All right,
Thank
have
you.
a good evening. Have a good evening.
All right.